Alright, in this video I wanted to show everyone how to create kind of a quick app that you can work on with your children, teach them maybe a little bit about SwiftUI and Swift, and have a lot of fun doing it. So this app really mimics a choose your own adventure type book where there are two choices that everybody can make. So, come up with a title. You can written by you and your children. Click on Let's Go, and there's going to be an image, a text, and then two choices. And the text here was pulled from ChatGPT. I did ask it to do a kid-friendly one, although the story they gave me was not particularly kid-friendly. So you read the text, pick one of the two choices, and then you can have your child help pick out an image, come up with the text and the two choices, and then you go ahead and click another button, and you have the end of your story, and then you click on Start Over, and then it goes back to the title page. You can do it all over again, do another story, or do another run through it. But being able to kind of build this with your children is actually a lot of fun. They can come up with the story and the images and things like that. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how to make this in Xcode. All right, let's get started. Once you open up Xcode, you're going to create a new Xcode project. And we're going to do an iOS app. Next. And I'm going to call it Adventure Story. And we'll make it a SwiftUI. We're not going to be using core data. And we'll just go ahead and click Next. And I'll save it in AppDev. And let's create that Git repository so we can make sure we track or save our changes. Alright, so let's let my machine load. I'm just going to make this bigger while we wait. And let's go ahead and get started with the title page. So in this title page, we're just going to go ahead and create a navigation stack because we want to be able to go through the different pages in our story. So a navigation, and in it, I'm going to remove this V stack. We don't need it right now. In this navigation stack, we're going to want a background. So if you recall, a Z stack is the one that a view that overlays its subviews. So we'll have something in the back, and then on top, we'll be laying out all of our other pieces. So we're going to do a Z stack. And in this Z stack, we're going to have an image. And I went on Google and just kind of downloaded some images that were Creative Commons. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to Assets, of course, and then launch your Finder. And we're going to go to my downloads. And let's just drag this background over here. All right, so we have kind of a forest background. And then we'll just go ahead and put it in our story. So we call it forest background. And hopefully it loads up and puts it in there. So once you have your forest background in here, so let's make sure this content view refreshes correctly. And make sure I named it correctly. So I potentially may have named it incorrectly. So this is forest background without a dash. Let's go ahead and delete that dash. And there it is. So we have kind of a very cool forest background. And we're going to make it resizable just to kind of make it look a little bit better. But and we will also do, we want to expand this all the way to the edges. So edges ignoring safe area. We'll say all of them. Let's see what this looks like. Actually, the first view looked pretty good, but this also looks really good. So there you go. So we're starting with our little story. And we're going to do a V stack. So on top of this, this is going to kind of be our first piece of the Z stack. And then on top of it, we're going to have a V stack that contains all of our stuff. So the first is going to be some text. Let's call it. So I actually, if you noticed in my background, I had ChatGPT create a story for me. We'll just borrow it from ChatGPT. And we're going to call it The Lost Key. All right. And Lost Key, we'll make it a font. Let's make it a large title. And let's see what this preview looks like. All right, so we got something there. And then maybe we'll do a multi-line adjustment, make it centered, just in case it goes over on a different screen. But certainly we could play with this more. That's kind of the fun part about the previews in SwiftUI. But for now, this looks pretty good. So next, we probably want some text, and let's say written by you and your children. All right, so we'll do that, and we'll make the font a headline. Again, you can obviously play with this. Pick out your backgrounds with your children, kind of structure this the way you want to. And then finally, we'll have a button to get started, right? So we're going to do a navigation link because we're going to go to the next page of this. And we are going to make the destination. Let's see which one we want. We'll just do this. Well, I'll just do it by myself. Destination and label. So the destination will be, we'll call it like a page view. And we'll just do page view for now. We'll be creating something later. And then we will make the label. We could just say text. We'll just say, let's go. All right. So let's see what we have. Can't find page view in scope. That is correct because it's not there. So let's go ahead and, because I do want to see what this looks like, let's go ahead and create that page view. So command click here. We're going to do a new file. This is going to be another SwiftUI view. And we will call it page view. And then we'll create it. And we'll just let it have the default, but at least now this in theory should be running correctly. So let's take a look at it. So there you go. You kind of have your button and everything there, your let's go. But this looks kind of weird, right? So let's go ahead and just make some changes to our navigation link. We'll just do a button style here. Again, this is stuff that you can play with, kind of make it look like your own. We'll make it a bordered prominent. Do that, see what it looks like. All right, so you could probably add a couple spacers here and there to kind of make it look a little bit better. You could probably do two V stacks, try to make it spaced out a little bit better. But I'm not going to do too much with this. This looks really good right now, and we will go ahead and just go to our page view. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create that navigation stack again. And in that stack, again, we'll do our Z stack because we want to put a little background, which might be kind of fun. So we'll just go back to content view. Let's just pull this forest background that we had before. We'll just drop it right in here. And then next, we'll just do a V stack again. And we're going to try to do 3 pieces. We'll have an image up top, then we'll have the text, then we'll have some buttons. So an image. All right, so we're going to do, and again, I downloaded some images, so we're going to go to our Finder, and there's let's do the rusty key. So go back to our assets, and you may want to just kind of create a folder and just call it like story, story images. And then go ahead and just drag some of these over. So we'll just drag all these over. I got a rusty key here. I got a forest door and some strange sounds. I'll just put all these in this story images. Put that in there. Drag this. There we go. So we have some images there, and we don't have to go back to this anymore. So let's go back to page view, and under the images, let's go ahead and grab that. I think one of them is called rusty key. So let's just put that rusty key in here. All right. And this is just taking up the whole thing. So let's just make it resizable. and scale to fit. All right, let's do that. So now we have our image, and that looks pretty decent, I think. So, we're following on our forest theme over here, lost key. So key's kind of in the forest. And next we'll have our text. So text is, we're going to go to, again, this is my chat GPT, so we'll just do page 1. You are a brave adventurer exploring a mysterious forest. With the text here. So now we have the text here, and it's kind of hard to read, even though it kind of looks pretty neat. So maybe we'll just drop a background on it. So let's see if we do background. Get background. Just do background and gray. Let's see. Okay. And let's actually do a little padding. There's looks like it's kind of running off a little bit. So let's see what this looks like. I think this might pad the whole thing. So this is not what I was looking for. So I was actually, let's pad the text first, and then we'll put the background gray. So there you go. All right. So that looks pretty good. All right. And let me see if I can get this to, there we go, line up right. So now we have our image, we have some text, and then finally the idea is that we'll have like these 2 buttons, right? So, and one of them they'll both be navigation links, right? Because we're going to then navigate back actually to this page with a new page, and I'll show you how we do all of that. So navigation, and we're just gonna do this for now. So we'll just do a destination. A label. So the destination we'll come back right to this page view for now. And our label is going to be, and I'm hitting enter on it, so it'll open up that closure so I can put some code in it. And we're going to just do text. And so this will be like our first choice. So we're going to go over here to, oops, minimize that. First choice is we'll pick up the key and try it in the front door of the mansion. So that's our first choice. So again, the idea is that you can kind of work with your children to come up with these cool ideas, things like that. And that way it'll be kind of fun. So let's go ahead and actually add some, button styles to this, because, let's add some padding around it. Let's do a background, and we'll do first choice. Let's make it pink, and we'll do, can't read that, so let's do the foreground color is dot white. So if anybody's wondering why this doesn't say background color, and this says foreground color and not foreground, it's because foreground you can set the color. Background, you actually have a ton of different options that you can do with it besides setting the color, which is why it's just called background. And that's really why. So let's make the button a little rounded. So corner radius, you probably know that now. Maybe let's make it 10. We'll make a little button, a little rounded, which looks great. And I think that's really it. I mean, maybe we'll do a font, and we'll try to make it a headline font, so that way it kind of looks a little bit bigger. All right. So that's our first button. And then our second one is going to be, let's go back to ChatGPT. And we're going to leave the key where it is and continue exploring the forest. So let's go back to Xcode. And again, you don't have to have ChatGPT come up with this stuff, but you and your child can come up with some interesting storylines. Maybe make one a good choice, make one a bad choice, and things like that. And we're going to make this purple. All right, so just 2 different colors of choices here. And this way you can read it with them and then kind of pick the button. So obviously the big challenge here is this is all static, but it looks good, or it looks pretty good. Again, I'm not going to take too much time styling all of this. Obviously, you can style it any way you want. rearrange them any way you want. But what I do want to do is I actually want to create the struct for the story, and we're going to store everything in that struct, and then this will be one of the advantages of using the preview. You can actually preview each page without having to run the app over and over and over. So again, let's build it. Command B, make sure it builds successfully so that there's nothing strange that's going on. All right, perfect. So let's just do this real quick. I'm going to group this from selection. We're just going to call this views. All right, and then we'll just create another folder. Okay, new folder, new group. Let's call it model, right? Because we're going to put our model in there. So let's go ahead and add a new file. And this is going to be a Swift file. So here is where we're going to kind of keep our structure, our struct of our story, and keep some of those values. So let's go ahead and create a new SwiftUI file. We'll put it here, and we're going to call it story. And you could probably get fancy with this. You could probably have another screen that allows you to pick different stories, and then you'll have in this story, maybe you have a couple different structs a couple different story variables of type story that have different stories in it and things like that, and that you can pick. But I'm just going to do one simple story here. So let's go ahead and create our struct. So our struct story, we're going to have the story text. So if we think back to our page view, we have the text of the story, right? We're going to have an image that we want to put in there. We're going to have the choice A and choice B. And with choice A and B, we need to also know where to go. And then I'm actually going to have an extra variable called, whether the story is over. And if the story is over, we're not going to show these navigation links. Rather, we'll just show a big button that says start over. All right, so back up to story. We will go ahead and have story text. So this is going to be, string. This is like the text of the story. We're going to have choice 1. It's a string. So this is the text for the first choice. Let choice 1 destination be an int. And this is going to be which, where does this choice go? And so we're going to do the same thing for choice 2. So I'm just going to destination. So let's go ahead and just copy this, and we're just going to make it choice 2, destination 2. And then we'll have a story image. So the picture, it'll be a string because we're just going to find things from this assets file to put in there. And then last one is we're going to have an end of story, and this is going to be a boolean. All right. So there you go. So next is we're going to create that story. So let stories equals, and we're going to create this array of stories. So we're going to do story number 0 is story, and in this you can see we have all of these fields we have to put in. So let's go ahead and just click on this, and we're going to pull our data from our page view. So first story is you are a brave adventurer. And I'm not going to do this for everything, but I want to just do a couple pages so you can see how this works. And then our choice 1 will be pick up the key and try it in the front door of the mansion. Right, so that's this string here. And then we'll leave that choice 1 alone for now. Choice 2 is going to be, again, this leave the key where it is in the forest. Actually, I'm going to take the double quotes too. Save me a little bit of typing. All right. And the story image was this. Up here, the rusty key. So let me make sure I get this rusty key in here. And the end of the story, this is not the end of the story, so it's going to be false. All right. And so the idea here is, I'm actually going to just hit a couple enters in here just to make it easier to read. I think sometimes when it's all run together, it's pretty hard to read. So this is kind of story 0, right? So copy this again. And we are going to go ahead and paste another one. So this is going to be, so we're going to have a comma here. And this is going to be story number, or page 1, I guess. So we should call this actually like page 0, page 1. All right. And in here, oops, let's just get this out of here. So page 1, we're going to go back to our chat GPT. And here's page 2, 1, 2. So we're going to go here. So this says if you choose A, turn to page 2. Choose B, go to 3. So let's just copy this, go back here, and so this choice will take us to page 1, or because this story is in the array 0, this is then 1. This will take you to 2. All right. So for now, let's put 0 here, so it works, and then let's go back and get this other text. Follow the noise down to the basement. And just do that. Follow the noise down to the basement. And then the last one is leave the mansion and continue exploring the forest. All right. So I'm not going to have you watch me build this hand by hand, but you kind of get what's going on here. So we're going to have to take all of this information and put it into our page view. All right. So the big thing we need to do is we need to be able to pass kind of which page we're on. So we're going to go to our content view, or our page view. And let's go ahead and start putting in some of this, right? So in our page view, we're going to need what choice the person made. So we're going to do a binding variable. So actually, let's start from content view so we know what we're doing. So we're going to call page view, and we're going to start on page 0. All right, so it'll be .constant 0. Right, so we're going to pass this constant variable. It's going to fail because page view is not expecting this yet. So we're going to do a binding variable called page. Let's call it, what should we call it? Let's call it the choice. Var choice made, and it's going to be integer. All right, let's go back to content view, make sure I did that right. Okay, so let's insert that label. So the choice made is 0, and I can't just pass 0 because it's a binding, so it will want me to put a constant in front of it. So here we've made our choice, and let's go ahead and just start editing some of this stuff. All right, so the image, again, this is our choice made. All right, we have our struct here, and we know everything about it. So in our page view, we're going to go ahead and start putting in things that we need to put in. So our background will kind of stay the same. Our image will be the current story. So we're going to let the current page, let's call it current page, that probably makes a little bit more sense, of a type story. It's going to equal to stories and choice made. All right. So hopefully this makes sense what I did here. Basically, we're bringing in what choice was made. When we start off, it's going to be 0, which means it'll correspond to this story, or this page of the story. And in our page view, so this is going to be 0. Kind of think about it as 0, right? And now we have our current page referencing everything that is in this highlighted block. So in our page view, if we pull up the image, it was current page dot story text, right? That's the first one we want. I'm sorry, story image. Next, we want you are a brave explorer. So let's go back to here. I'm going to highlight this. Current page dot story text. Then here for the navigation link, right? We want to be able to make the destination for the page view and what choice they're making, right? So it's going to be choice made, right? And we're going to send over constant because we have to make sure that this is a constant because of the binding. Current page dot choice one destination, right? That's where it's going to go. And then in the text, it's going to be current page dot choice one. That's the text that we had, right? And then same thing for over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this navigation link. I'm going to put it right here, okay? And this is actually going to be choice 2 destination and choice 2 here. All right. So there you go. So in the preview, it's going to fail because it needs a parameter. So let's just go ahead and make it choice made, and we'll do a binding. So we have to do a constant, and let's just do a 0 and see what happens, right? So now, if you follow along what I just did there, our choice is 0. When it goes up here, it's going to pass this choice made as 0. The current page is going to be our stories right here, which is the first item in this array, which is 0. And it's going to basically look at all of this, and it's going to start putting in all this information, right? So current page, which is 0, the story image, boom, right there. Current page, story text, right there. Destination, right, is if I click on this, it's going to go to whatever destination it wants to be, which is 1 and 2. So let's test it out now and see what we have, right? So go ahead and build this. Let's see what we have, all right? All right, so the lost key written by you and your children. Let's go. You are a brave adventurer exploring a mysterious forest. As you wander deeper into the woods, you come across an old abandoned mansion. All right, so now you have 2 choices. And remember, down here in our story, if you recall, this should go to 1, which is this, and 2, which doesn't exist, so it'll actually crash. So let's go to 1, which is pick up the key. You insert the key into the lock and turn it. The door creaks open, you step inside. The mansion is dark and spooky with cobwebs and dust everywhere. So now you have these 2 options. Here they go to 0, so they'll actually just go back to this first page. So if you click on it, it'll actually go back to the first page and over and over. So what we need to do now is just kind of finish this off. Now, as you recall, I did have this end of story, so I do want to kind of take this into account. So on our page view, instead of, right, we have these 2 navigation links. So if we're going to do current page end of story. So if this is true, then we're going to display display the end, right? If not, we're just going to display these navigation links. So let's put this down here. All right, there you go. So what we're going to do here is go ahead and put, if it's the end of the story, let's do this. Let's go navigation link, and we'll just do same thing, right? Destination will be content view. So we're going to, if it's over, we're just going to redirect them. We have navigation that directs them back to the content view. And the label will be, sorry, I'm just going to do what we did before, which is put it in the closure. So text, start over. All right. So let's build out this one more level through our ChatGPT generated piece. All right, so we'll just say that this page 4 or 5. So let's okay. So let's go for page 4. All right. And in our Xcode, let's go to, just put this text over here. So let's do another page here. And we'll have to fix these pages later probably. So this is page 2, right? You follow noise down to the basement. And congratulations. So the choice 1, we don't need anything for this. Doesn't really matter what our destination is. But our end of story is true. And let me just change the image here so it's not the same rusty key. I think I downloaded for store, so let's just do over here. We'll just do a forest door. And for this, I usually have my children pick an image. We find it off of Google, and I save it down. We put it in here, and they come up with some text and help me come up with some of the choices. So that's it's kind of a fun way of working with somebody, or working with your children. So again, this is going to go 1. Make this a 2. So again, if it goes to 2, it'll go to this part, which is the end of story. Let's see how this works. All right, so let's go. So 1 will put you to another page, but this should go to the end page. So if we click on this, that's it. Yeah, you follow noise, and you can start all over. This button doesn't look great, so we'll go ahead and fix it. But what I did want to bring your attention to is that the great thing about Preview is that you don't have to run this application, click through all of your choices to get to where you want. Instead, you can go down here and say, well, I'm working on page 2. Let me take a look at page 1, let's say, right? Change the constant to page 1. Here we go. So now we have everything that we want in page 1, right? Or, hey, I really want to work on page 2. Have your child take a look at it, and you can actually use the preview and see, this is what page 2 looks like. And you can see that the start over button doesn't look great. So again, we could copy this and kind of paste it up here. We'll make it, the background blue or something like that, right? So that's the start over button. So that, in a nutshell, is it. You can continue to build out the story, and they'll continue to kind of click through the buttons and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things we could do to kind of streamline this code. For example, I've repeated this many times. You could potentially create a new struct. We could probably do it real quick, but you could create a new struct that extends the button style. So you could do something like this. Let me see if we can do this quickly. I did not want to make this video too long. And since the background color is the only one that's kind of changing, you could say background color is a color. We're going to pass that one in. But the function is, we're going to send the function make body. And in this view, we are going to do a configuration label. And we're going to put all of this stuff in here, right? So we're just going to copy and put it in here, right? So we could do something like this, make it a little bit better. This we're going to pass in as a background color, right? So with this, in theory, hopefully I did that right. We could take this out, right? We could do something like dot button style, and we will make it what we just made, a choice button style. So choice button style, but we also need a background color, right? So this I think was supposed to be purple. All right, so I'm not sure if this worked, but what I can do is I can change this constant to a 1, and it seems like it's working right? So then we can change this. This is pink, so I'm going to take this, cut all this out, and we'll make this pink. And then finally up here, we can make this blue. And that way, we don't have so many this repeating over and over and over. So that's one thing we could do. We could probably do something with this destination since I have it repeated twice. But for you and your kids kind of playing with this, I think this is as far as we're going to get. I'll fill out the rest of the story and I'll check this into GitHub. Link will be at the bottom. All right, thanks everyone for watching. Hopefully this gives you some ideas on some fun projects to play with your child or to work on with your child.